What if I told you the real reason the United States became the world's dominant power has almost nothing to do with what most people think? Not just planes, tanks, or money. Not just Hollywood movies. Not even the atomic bomb itself. There's a hidden thread that connects the rise of this nation, from farmlands to skyscrapers to moonwalks, that most history books gloss over. Some of the greatest battles weren't fought on fields of war, but in factories, universities, and legislatures. So here's the question that historians, strategists, and even rival nations have struggled with for decades. What is the deeper secret behind America's superpower status? Today, we're going to peel back every layer: geography, economics, culture, hidden advantages, global strategy, to uncover a truth that most people never see coming. By the end of this video, you'll understand not just what made America a superpower, but why no other nation or empire ever reached this unique combination of dominance. And stay until the final section, where we reveal the least understood force driving American power, one that's still shaping the world today. Before we dive into the US, picture the early 20th century. The globe's oldest empires, the British, French, German, and Russian, were tearing themselves apart through two catastrophic world wars. Cities that once symbolized centuries of power lay in rubble. Economies collapsed, populations were decimated, infrastructure destroyed. And then came a nation sitting on the edge of those wars, largely untouched. This wasn't luck, it was geography. While Europe and Asia were battlegrounds, America had two massive oceans guarding both coasts. No trenches on its soil, no cities leveled by artillery, no entire population mobilized for total war on its own land. That isolation alone didn't make it a superpower, but it gave America an advantage most nations never had: a blank slate during a time of global destruction. When war ended in 1945, the United States stood not just undefeated, but untouched. Its industrial base was intact, its workers were skilled, its economy only just revving up. This moment, more than any battlefield victory, set the stage for superpower status. Let's talk about the engine that really won the war, and the piece that followed: production. During World War II, the United States became the world's workshop. Factories didn't just build tanks, they built trucks, ships, planes, weapons, uniforms, food, machinery. By 1945, American industry was producing more than most of its allies combined. After the war, while other nations scrambled to rebuild, America was already converting wartime factories into peacetime industry: cars, appliances, consumer goods, infrastructure. The economic boom was unprecedented. And that boom was no accident. For decades, the United States had invested in internal transportation infrastructure: the transcontinental railroad, interstate highways, ports, canals, and later highways connecting every major city. These weren't luxuries. They were national arteries that moved people, ideas, goods, and capital faster and cheaper than almost anywhere else in the world. So here's a question to chew on. What good is a powerful army if your nation can't feed itself, transport its resources, or sustain its economy? The answer isn't taught in Sunday school, it's taught in boardrooms and national planning offices. Take a moment and imagine another world power: Britain. Britain ruled a global empire that stretched across continents, yet it was surrounded by the sea. It could not fend off invasions on its soil, but its empire's wealth depended on being connected to everywhere else. America, on the other hand, had a vast landmass filled with natural resources: fertile farms, forests, minerals, oil, and navigable rivers connecting everything from the Mississippi to the Great Lakes. Its geography wasn't just passive protection, it was a strategic advantage. Those navigable waterways weren't just pretty rivers, they were early internal trade routes, highways before highways existed. Goods could move from farms to factories to ports without massive cost or infrastructure investment. In other words, America didn't just have land, It had an internal economy already wired for expansion. So let me pause with this. Why do some nations with centuries of history never become economic powerhouses, while this one did in barely a century? We'll answer that in a moment. One of the most underappreciated reasons America became a superpower was people. Not just any people, but millions who came from across the world with skills, dreams, and ideas. Throughout the 19th and early 20th centuries, waves of immigrants came to the U.S. seeking opportunity. They brought languages, cultures, perspectives, and most importantly, talent. Carpenters became builders, scholars became professors, dreamers became entrepreneurs. Their children became scientists, inventors, and business founders. Half of America's Fortune 500 companies were founded by immigrants or their children. That's not coincidence. That's brainpower migration. And why did they come? Because the U.S. offered something most countries didn't: economic mobility. If you worked hard, there was room for you at the top. You weren't locked into a caste, class, or inherited hierarchy. That's one of the invisible engines of American power, a system that rewards innovation and hard work on a massive scale. Ask yourself this: if a nation welcomes the best minds of other countries, what happens to its innovation? We're about to see. You might assume military technology drives national power, and it does. But innovation itself is a force multiplier. Consider jet engines, nuclear power, computers, GPS, internet protocols, medical breakthroughs. Almost all had significant U.S. involvement, if not outright leadership. These innovations didn't just defend the nation, they redefined the world. This wasn't random. After World War II, the United States poured public and private money into research and development: universities, defense labs, industrial labs, science foundations. What did this create? Two things that slide under the radar: technological leadership, a feedback loop where economic growth funded even more innovation. It's no accident that Silicon Valley, MIT, CALTECH, and other hubs became global leaders. They were part of a system, not isolated exceptions. And here's the twist most people miss. The same technology that built consumer products also built military systems. Innovation wasn't separate, it was dual use. That means medical research, computing advances, aerospace breakthroughs, all became pieces in a larger puzzle of national strength. Now let's talk about something that doesn't look like power at first glance: the US dollar. After World War II, global financial systems were reset. The Bretton Woods Conference made the dollar the backbone of international trade. Suddenly, most global transactions, oil, commodities, loans, were priced in dollars. Political Science Institute. What does that mean? It means the U.S. could borrow cheaply, lend broadly, and influence global markets without firing a single shot. Countries needed dollars to trade. Central banks held dollars as reserves. Wall Street became the world's financial hub. Money in America started to shape politics, diplomacy, and even wars. This is soft power in its most potent form, not forcing others to obey, but shaping the very financial architecture of the world. At this point, you might be thinking, cool, culture, economy, innovation, but what about guns? Yes, America has the strongest military in the world. Its defense budget outspends the next dozen countries combined. Its aircraft carriers and nuclear arsenal are unmatched. But here's the nuance: military dominance wasn't the starting point. It was a product of economy, innovation, and global engagement. In other words, the U.S. could afford such a military because America had already built the foundation of wealth and technology. And that military wasn't just for war, it was a global guarantee, a deterrent that affected international stability, alliances, and commerce. After World War II, the U.S. didn't just build weapons. It built alliances, NATO, partnerships in Asia, agreements in the Pacific that extended American influence without colonization. These alliances meant that the United States wasn't just strong by itself, it was at the center of a global network. America's influence isn't just tanks or dollars, it's also culture. Hollywood films, music, television, brands, sports. American culture became a global language. You don't have to speak English to know what Hollywood means. Cultural influence shapes preferences, ideals, and aspirations. It makes American brands desirable, American politics influential, and American lifestyles aspirational. Back in time today, it's not trivial. Nations that understand culture as power use it to shape global perceptions, sometimes more effectively than armies. Despite all this dominance, America's power isn't unchallenged. A leading expert on international relations, Joseph Nye, argues that modern superpower dominance lies in a combination of hard power and soft power, culture, diplomacy, economic influence, values. Today, rivals like China are rising, not because America is weak, but because the world is multipolar. That means power is shared, contested, shifting. China has economic clout, regional influence, and rapidly modernizing technology. So here's the surprising twist. Being a superpower doesn't mean being unchallenged. It means having enough layers of influence that no single competitor can easily displace you. That's the secret few people grasp. So if military strength, geography, innovation, economy, and culture all matter, what's the secret ingredient that we haven't named yet? Here it is. Institutions that scale human ambition. Think about it. America didn't just become powerful because it had resources. It became powerful because it developed systems that allowed people to use those resources in unprecedented ways. Universities where ideas can flourish. Markets where capital can fund dreams. Legal systems that protect invention and enterprise. Immigration systems, historically, that drew talent. Networks of trade and academics that spread knowledge further, faster. Other empires had resources, some had armies, some had culture, but none created a structure where innovation, capital, and human energy could fuse so comprehensively at a global scale. And this advantage, this systemic engine, is why America didn't just win one war or grow one economy. It won the race for global influence. Now let's bring this closer to today. Some analysts argue America's absolute dominance is slipping in a multipolar world. They point to economic competition with China, rising nationalism, and fractured alliances. But that's only half the story. Here's the part most people miss. Superpower status isn't static. It's dynamic. It changes with global networks, technology, and new domains like cyberspace, AI, biotech, and space. If the U.S. continues to lead not just in military might, but in innovation ecosystems, research and development, cultural influence, and international cooperation, it will remain a major power, even in a more complex world. But that's not guaranteed. Imagine a world where innovation collapses, or education declines, or financial influence erodes. The pillars that built superpower status can decay if neglected. So the real question today isn't whether America was a superpower, it's whether it can remain one in the decades ahead. So let's bring it full circle. The secret behind America's superpower isn't a single weapon, a single victory, or a single president. It's a system, a web of advantages rooted in geography, resources, culture, institutions, economic structures, innovation networks, alliances, and a global financial architecture. And the most important idea to walk away with is this: power isn't what you have. Power is what you produce. A nation can have land, but without systems to use it, it's just land. A nation can have money, but without ideas to spend it on, it's just currency. America became a superpower, not because it collected advantages, but because it turned them into momentum. What happens next is up to the choices of leaders, innovators, and citizens around the world. And you now know the real question. Not just how America became a superpower, but how it can stay one. Leave a comment with your thoughts. Do you think America will retain its superpower status in 2050, or will the world look very different? Subscribe for deep, honest history explained clearly, and I'll see you in the next video.